Hello and welcome to the Amaka Beké talk show, your favorite talk show on the virtual block, ringing in from Ontario, Canada, and saying hello to our gracious, generous viewers across the globe. On today, we have Roundtable Discourse, and on this roundtable, we are going to be discussing some subjects of great interest that hasn't yet been focused on much, never really discussed, especially in the angle that we want to discuss it. And the topic for today's roundtable discourse is divorce, pros and cons. So the subject is divorce, pros and cons. And to discuss this on our roundtable with me is the gracious, delightful media personality, community leader, George Bluetooth from Ontario, Canada.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Amaka Show. We are here to educate and also discuss things pertaining to this particular subject, which is a very volatile subject in our midst. Many of us are victims of this.
Yes.
But also we know that whenever a discourse like such a one as this, happens, solutions will always be there. So I just want to welcome everybody around the world as we are about to delve into this subject. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And of course, guys, you must have recognized George Bluetooth is not Bluetooth. It's not the first time he's coming on the show. He's a returning guest. We have heard his Niger best, his unique individual story of moving abroad from Nigeria and surviving abroad, and the things he has learned, the things he has gained, and the things that he is teaching. So again, you're welcome on the show. And again, we have our beautiful, admirable, confident sister by the name Adebimpe Kasali. Kasali is joining us from Chicago, Illinois, United States. Of course, she's also a returning guest. We've heard her Niger best, very electrifying interview. I took part in that interview. I can't believe myself, but I enjoyed every bit of it. Welcome on the show again, Bimpe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. I didn't think I was electrifying, but if you say so. So yes, thank you for having me.
You're always welcome. So on today's subject in the roundtable discuss, which is divorce pros and cons. What is divorce? Let's begin from the genesis of divorce. From my little, what I call it, summary, divorce is the unforeseen end or destination of marriage. Marriage, by the way, is a contractual agreement that two adults most of the time get into. At the time that this contract is being signed, is being agreed upon, is being considered, of course, divorce 90% of the time is not part of the deal, not even in the minds of these two adults who are getting into it. However, things happen. And when things happen, especially negative surprises, unforeseen circumstances, and unkind peculiarities, it gets to the point where there would be the D word from the M word, and D becomes the divorce, becomes the end of the marriage, because the marriage is at the beginning phase of this contract, whilst divorce is at the end of the rope. So George,
yes,
what do you think about divorce or divorces?
Okay. To begin with, there are, before we talk about divorce, we have to talk about marriage, because you cannot divorce unless you enter into marriage. So number one is, first and foremost, the mindset about marriage is what might bring about divorce. Okay, if you have what I consider to from a legal aspect of it, because there are three aspects of marriage. Number one is the spiritual aspect of it, or what you call the religious aspect of it. Then you have the traditional or cultural aspect of it, and then you have the legal aspect of it. If you depend only on the legal aspect of it, that means you have a lenient type of attitude towards marriage. And what ends up happening is divorce is easy to attain. Divorce becomes a path of least resistance, where you just end it simply because you don't even want to pursue any other avenues or whatever the case might be. Now, the legal aspect of it, the spiritual aspect of it is the inception of marriage started with God at the beginning of creation. Okay? Number one is God created Adam and Eve, or when he created Adam, he said, it is not good for a man to be alone. That's the first thing. We will find him a helpmate. If you understand your Bible clearly, you will see that it was not actually God who chose Eve for Adam. It was Adam who chose Eve for himself. Because if you read it in the Bible, it tells you specifically, then immediately he says it's not good for a man to be alone. We will find him a helpmate. He started creating different kinds of what you call domestic animals, and he was bringing them to Adam to see whether he would choose one of them as his wife. Eventually, none was found as a comparable mate for Adam. Then God put Adam to sleep, took a rib out of his side, molded it into a beautiful woman, brought it to Adam. It was now Adam who said, now this is the bone of my bone and the flesh of my flesh. She shall be called Isha, or woman. Both of them now became one flesh. And that's the reason why every time you go back, you see, so shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave unto his wife, and two of them shall become one. So that's the inception. That is the beginning of marriage. It was a covenant, not a contractual agreement. From a legal aspect of it, it is a contractual agreement. From a spiritual aspect of it, is a covenant. And a covenant is always involving blood. So now what you see is at the inception, at the beginning, when man and woman first started, okay, blood was shed when Adam's side was opened.
Wow.
Now, eventually, as time went on, the covenant between a man and a woman, marriage is not consummated until a man who is a virgin meets a woman who is a virgin, and then for the first time after the ceremony, they go into their marital suites, and then the hymen of the woman is, cut, blood comes out of it, mingles with the man's semen. That becomes a covenant before God, that two has become one flesh. If you go to the Jewish tradition, there's what you call a cloth of witness. Yeah. So when a man is going into the bridal suit with the wife, the father of the bride will give the man what you call a white cloth of witness. Yeah. So that white cloth of witness will be put under the woman. When the hymen is broken, the blood will sift into it. It's a cloth of witness. After that, he will take that and then go to the father of the bride and say, here is a proof that your daughter was a virgin when I consummated the marriage. Therefore, both of us has become one flesh. Eventually, if that man begins to maltreat the woman, that cloth of witness will be something that they will use to judge him. Wow. Because you have done it. So that is what marriage is all about. The marriage has evolved over time, and now it's come to where the weight of the legality of marriage is more than anything else, more than even the covenant aspect of it. So today, we look at marriages as a contractual agreement whereby even people are doing what you call prenuptial agreement, a preparation for divorce before the marriage takes place. That's what it is.
Indeed.
In their defense, it involves a lot of in their defense, it involves a lot of money. So I'm just but that is funny, and that's an interesting thing.
That's a good point too.
That's a very solid point. I have never thought about marriage in that way. I think that comes with wisdom, but you know, I like where you started off from. So yeah, so but in their defense, it was just a lot of money was involved and they needed to protect their assets. But you know, that's the first sign that, you know, they have they believe that this might not end up working, right? So, you know, like to your point, you know, it makes sense. I guess that's
well,
what
of course, that's a legal
that's looking
aspect
from the
of
legal point of
the
view. And you
contract.
know,
Yeah.
I really admire the fact that you went into the biblical aspect and went, you know, that route. I guess marriage is indeed divided into three, you know, spiritual contract, and then you said one other one, I'm not sure what it was.
Traditional cultural.
Traditional culture. Yeah, so that makes sense. But I, like you said, it has moved away from that, you know, in recent times. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's sadly, I don't know if it's,
I agree.
you know, and I'm not sure if it's a sad thing or if it's not, if it's an empowering thing, right? Because if we look at marriage in the days, or if we go through the route of Bible as taught us, or whatever religious aspect, you see that it's at the risk of sounding like, you know, like a complete feminist or something like that. It looks like it was designed to keep women down, and, you know, and I don't know, I'm not okay with that. You know what I mean? You know, it's always, you know, a man is their leader, a man is this, a man is that. And I feel like, you know, times have changed. Again, I'm not sure if it's for good or for bad, but again, I completely see where you're coming from, and I completely, you know, agree with some of the things that you highlighted, which, you know, it makes sense if you look at it now. But I just feel like, you know, some of those things are just not empowering for women, and as a woman, I'm not okay with it. You know what I mean? But you know, I get your point. I guess what I'm trying to say.
Anyway, if you look at it from the standpoint of the inception or the beginning of marriage, that is a key word that was used: comparable mate. Comparable mate.
Yeah.
So that, and God himself who did it said, and their name shall be called. So now what is happening is, now we have run away from, you know, because what it is in actuality, whether we like it or not, spiritually, the man is the head of the house.
Okay.
But hold on. The man is the head of the household. You cannot have two ships, you know, two captains in one boat.
Yeah.
Now, both of them are equal, but one is more equal than the other.
Napoleon.
Depending on where you are coming from. Now, when you look at it from that standpoint, where there is what you call mutual respect, mutual admiration, mutual you know, respect for the institution, for the sacredness of that thing, where the man is doing everything to please the wife and the wife is doing everything to please the woman, you will see that they will succeed. There will be differences, there will be disputations, there will be issues. But the only thing, as long as both of them are looking in the same direction together, not looking at each other, the only time you look at each other is when you say, I do. After that, both of you will turn aside and start looking in the same direction together. Boom. You don't leave your woman behind. She is always on your side. When she is always on your side, that means both of you are working together. So that is the key there. Now, the point is, whether we like it or not as men, we can be the spiritual heads, but most of the time, if you look at the way that it is divided, the man is the head. Only a quarter of the whole entire body. The woman is the body, 3/4 of the body. Where the woman walks is where the man will go. The man makes a decision saying, honey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? Can we go here? There is agreement. The woman carries you guys there. So eventually, whether we like it or not, the women rule, the men reign.
Excellento.
That is some knowledge.
And amen. And amen and a man that understands that secret with wisdom will succeed in their marriage, because the difference is, we think in a broader spectrum. Women think in detail.
Whoa.
So now, if you want to, the man will bring an idea and say, okay, honey, I want us to buy a house. That's it. The woman will go into the detail. I want my kitchen to look like this. I think we should do this, we should do that.
Even
we should have
the location, the type
location.
of house, the type
So
of
now
property,
the details
the
is
range,
left.
the price range.
And the man, if he's wise, will listen to the woman.
Mm-hmm.
Because the woman is detailed oriented.
Yeah.
And when she is happy, the whole household is happy. When the
Everyone
woman is unhappy, there is darkness in the house. Like it or not. Some of us men think by suppressing our women, that is the way that we will make it in our marriage. That is not the same. Whether it was in the old or in the new way of thinking about marriage, when you give her that opportunity to be the detail-minded person who will take you guys to where you want to go. Remember, the man is bringing the idea.
Yeah.
And when the woman says, honey, don't you think it's time for us to get a house? The man looks into the whole entire thing and says, yes, honey, yeah, I want to do it. She leaves the detail to the woman. He can bring suggestions.
Yeah.
But if they will succeed, if he's wise, he will know how to be able to even say, if I'm suggesting, I say, oh, babe, do you think that such and such and such is a good idea? You know, have you looked at this and this and this and this? So you have to know how to think like a woman in order to persuade your wife to follow the vision that you have, because they're detailed minded. So I come to you, I say, oh, we're getting a house. But what do you think about if we find a place with a finished basement? Because maybe it can help us to do such and such and such and such. And then she's like, that's a good idea. Now she's the one that is saying yes. The man is only suggesting, but she agrees with you because you have given her the pros of a finished basement.
Yeah.
So she's also ruling while you're reigning. Go ahead.
Congratulations.
That is a very insightful way to put it. I think, yeah, but I think that the fact that, you know, you put it this way, which it makes sense if you look at it in a broader, you know,
broader spectrum,
or broader spectrum, whatever you say, you know, the man is the head and, you know, the vision and everything. That makes sense, right? However, not every man in present day thinks like you, George. Unfortunately, they don't, especially men from our tribe, you know, African men. Their idea of what a woman is to them is, oh, God made women, be submissive. Be submissive to them means do everything that I ask you to do. That's not what it is. If you value a woman, like you said, you know, you say, okay, let's get a house. And then you say, what's your input? And she comes and say, oh, this is my input. And you know, you kind of give her a room, like you said, to, you know, go into details, to come out and say, you know, honey, I think we should get a finished basement. And, you know, in support of this, we should do this, we should do that. Most men in Africa, sadly, don't see it that way. They look at marriage as a whole master-slave arrangement. You know, I don't know if that makes sense. But, you know, again, what you're saying to me, you know, I'll be honest, I've never thought about it. I've never thought about it in the biblical concept, like you just put it, which makes sense. And on the other hand, like you said, you know, the man could be the head, but the woman is the entire, you know,
body.
Unfortunately, our men, African men, and I keep saying this, and, you know, no offense to anybody, but it's something that, you know, I have seen, I've witnessed, and I also experienced. You know, some of them think that we should be quiet when they speak.
Oh,
okay.
Some of them think, oh, you know, doing this or doing that is being disrespectful to them, but that's not, you know, most times people forget, as women, we also have a life that we dream. We're willing to put it on hold, or we're willing to, you know, put it in the back burner and say, you know what, I want this as well, and I can let this go for this. But some men, they don't see it that way, you know.
So on that note, Bimbe, what do you think, or would you say, is at least one cause of divorces?
One thing I would say is, you know, as much as, you know, marriage has all this aspect, sometimes, you know, we burn out, you know, and I feel like that's human nature.
Burnout. Take notes, everyone. I'm taking notes.
You know,
women feel burnt out, right? They feel a burnout.
And sometimes, you know, it's just like you need a man to understand, you know, this person is also human that needs, we need to come up with different ways or different ideas, to keep it going, because forever is a long time, in my view. And I feel like sometimes most of our men, or I keep saying our men because African men, I'm not going to speak for, the entire race or whatnot. I feel like they get so comfortable once they get married, and they just feel like the routine is the thing. Some African men, you can hardly even get them to say, oh,
especially
let's
from
go on a date.
African descent, feel too comfortable when they get in a marriage.
Are you taking notes?
Anyway, I'll say this, based on what you were saying. You see, I said like there is a triune approach to every marriage. And that triune approach is the beginning aspect of it is the spiritual. Because when I look at my wife as my body, and the Bible is telling me that I have to take care of my body, and I look at her as part of me, I will seek her satisfaction. I will seek her happiness. I will seek everything. What has happened is culturally and traditionally, most African men divorced, number one, the spiritual aspect of it,
okay,
and only married to the legal and the cultural. So because
most African men divorce the spiritual aspect of marriage,
that's
which
right.
is the cause of divorce itself.
This is one aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because if I want to subjugate you, okay, no man, no human was ever created to be controlled by another human.
I agree. I concur with that.
From the beginning of 100%. Creation, God gave dominion to mankind over the fish of the sea, over all the created beings, animals and everything, but not over each other.
Yes.
Now, the choice I make as a man who is married to honor my wife, I honor her as my body. When I honor her as my body, she now in turn will give me her best. Women are usually intellectual and emotional beings. Men are usually physical beings. So now what is happening is if you go to Africa, culture has taken over, whereby the way it was in the past, is, as things are evolving and changing, women are getting more educated, women are taking higher positions, yet it becomes an issue for a man who will not have his wife to be even more educated than himself, how to contain her. But there is no containing. If there is a mutual understanding, where two can come to a common level of understanding that will be profitable to both of them and for the family. Yeah. You will see that the man now will respect the wife, and the woman should not. Okay, because what is happening, let me tell you one of the causes of marriage, especially when there is not a mutual understanding. Most women want to be married, but yet they are going around trying to prove their manhood.
Okay.
Pay attention to this. This is very, very important.
Yeah.
When you have a husband, let's say, for instance, that you are more educated than, and then you fail to acknowledge him still as your spiritual head and respect him, though he is not as educated as you, or you make more money than him.
Yeah.
That man, if you give that man the respect that is due him, let me tell you something. All men need is respect.
Okay.
If you go back into the biblical aspect of it, it tells you that. He said, women, honor your husband, respect your husband. Husband, love your wives as you love yourself.
It's your body, yes.
As your body. So when you see both of them is balanced, but what happens, a lot of things come into the equation and begin to bring a whole lot of insidious things, unforgiveness, sexlessness
in the union,
in the marriage.
Yeah.
And so if your husband is not,
I will not that sexlessness, because I want us to really, really expand
delve into it.
That.
Okay. So
I do think, however, I'm sorry. I
go
was just
ahead.
gonna say, I disagree with something you just said. You know, that the
Bring it
fact
on.
that a woman is trying to prove a manhood. I don't think that there's a need for any, you know, let me speak for myself. You know, I don't think that by me being more educated than my husband means that, you know, trying to prove my manhood, or I have, you know, um maybe I'm misunderstanding
You
you, but
misunderstood what I'm
okay,
saying.
maybe, but
You
I'm just saying,
misunderstood.
like,
I didn't say that you being more educated is you trying to prove your manhood, because I know a lot of women, even we all know a lot of Nigerian women who are higher in position than their husbands. Okay.
Oh, you can go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So what I'm saying is this. It is not that you are more educated or you make more money than your husband. But what we have seen is most women, there's a cliche among our communities when women get into nursing.
In the diaspora, right? We're looking
In the diaspora.
Yeah, okay.
Let's just say hypothetically, the woman
hypothetically.
you know, the man is here before you, or the woman was here before the husband. But yet, because you have more opportunity, you go to school, you see this cliche where when they get into nursing, they make more money, they become the bosses.
I know you're gonna use nothing.
No, seriously, pay attention, because
I'm
you see,
understanding
these are things that needs to be discussed. Now, men also, because of lack of that respect that is given to them, or you're trying to down the man because he's not making enough money than as you are, or not as educated as you are, then all of a sudden that particular area of psychological abuse could cause, number one, emotional, physical abuse, possibly from the man, which will not end in divorce. See, so mutual respect is something that is really highly